ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Harold Torres, the leader of the Group 1, and today we are given the task by our professor, Mr. Luis, to discuss about the Unit 5, which is the Self in Western and Eastern Thoughts. So, in this lesson, we will look at religious beliefs and political philosophies that greatly influence the mindset of each nation or culture. But first, we will be talking about the individualism versus the collectivism. What is individualism? It is an orientation concerned with the independent and self-reliance with the self. Meaning, the person has this confidence, has something to show to the world that they can and able to survive on their own. So that is individualism. Next, what is collectivism? It is an orientation that characterized by belongingness to a larger group. Or on the other hand, collectivistic culture that gives more importance to loyalty in group, which in turn takes care of individuals' welfare. While on the opposite ends, individualistic culture put more emphasis on promoting the individual and immediate family's welfare. So that's it. So now, the Western concept of self. It is individualistic. Next, it gives more emphasis on freedom of choice, an independent self that is free from influence of culture and environment. Next, it emphasizes the uniqueness of every individual and is predicated on egoism or self-orientedness. And last, individualism foregrounds the self as existing and distinct from the others. So in other words, guys, the Western concepts of the self treats the self as an entity that is free to express itself. Just to put some emphasis, the West values freedom and choice and also wants to free itself from the bandage of the society, meaning this Western orientation or individuals from the West, they seek to create their own identity. So ganon. So next is the Eastern concept of the self. It is collectivistic. Next, it gives more importance on relationships, roles, duties, obligations, and the preservation of the culture and traditions. And last, collectivism is founded on the belief that the people are socially connected. So basically, the Easterners are others-oriented because they encourage people to be kind, benevolent, charitable, dependable, and sensitive to the needs of others. It promotes selflessness or sacrifice for the other and the welfare of others, and also the performance of the assigned roles. Collectivism stresses that an individual has many selves instead of having one knowable self. The self is viewed as part of us instead of me. So that is it.
One eternity later.
Okay, so let's proceed for another discussion on certain notable and influential philosophies and what could they also say or their views about self. So first is Confucianism. So what is Confucianism? Let's take a look. According to Confucius, individual identity is not defined by membership in the reference group, which includes a self-related. So this identity is called relational self. Each member must possess the same qualities that the group preserves and cherishes. Each member shares the pride that the group claims and is united in every success or failure. He also introduced another concept of the self, which is the subdued self. So, the subdued self It is a concept wherein the self is contained to respond to perceptions, not of its own needs and aspiration, but of social requirements and obligations. It is rather conditioned to respond to perceptions. The subdued self means to also practice Ren, or the human heartedness, meaning you are selfless as an individual and you are thinking about the other people's needs and prioritize them. So this is the hallmark, or Ren is the hallmark of Confucian ethics. And having an altruistic behavior, meaning to say you are a nurturing kind because you believe that everyone must be nurtured, and it can be understood as love, benevolent, or charity. And yun na nga, Ren, or human-heartedness, is a Confucian virtue characterized by altruistic behavior that must be nurtured in every person. Yun na nga yung pagiging selfless mo, or pagiging selfless ng isang
Hi, my name is Aimee Sombrero and my topic is all about Confucianism. There are many sources in which you can analyze the perspective of each culture and country about the concept of self. In this lesson, we will look at religious beliefs and political philosophies that greatly influence the mindset of each nation and culture. So, first is Confucianism. So, Confucianism is the philosophy based on the teachings of Confucius, who was an important Chinese philosopher. As a result, Confucianism both the people love, harmony, and respect for one another. Confucianism was started in Chufu, Confucius' birthplace. And also it can be seen as a code of ethical conduct of how one should properly act according to their relationship with other people. Thus, it is also focused on having a harmonious social life. Thus, identity and self-concept of the individuals are interwoven with the identity and status of his or her community or culture, sharing its pride as well as its failures. So I have one example here of Confucianism. So I think everyone does watch Disney's Mulan, right? And in one of the early scenes in Disney Mulan, we see Mulan's father praying to his ancestors at a family shrine near their home. So this form of ancestors worship has been practiced in China since prehistoric times, but is particularly emphasized as Confucianism.
Hi, my name is Eldron Ruth B. Villamon, and I am going to tackle about Taoism and Buddhism. These are the Eastern concept of self. Buddhism. It comes with the word Bud, B-U-D-H. It means awake. It implies that when the eyes are open, it will lead us to more understanding about the self. And it is founded by Siddhartha Gautama, which is known as Buddha. And Buddhism, it is composed of the teachings of Buddha. And the idea of Buddhism is to learn how to accept the nature of reality. So Buddha taught a doctrine called anatta. It means no self or no soul. Anatta, it is a teaching that there is no eternal. It's unchanging. So it means that everything in life is always changing, that nothing lasts forever. And the ignorance of anatta or impermanence, it will lead to illusion. So if you are not recognizing the concept of impermanence, you believe that there is a self. There is also an information that Buddhist tradition, human beings inborn erroneous views of self. So it means they are born out of ignorance, trying to hold and control things. It's a human-centered, and this human-centered caused suffering. And in Buddhism, The existence of self is the cause of suffering. And when there is suffering, there is also the end of suffering. And according to Buddhists, to end the suffering, you must live in a righteous life. So you must live in a peaceful and in a good way life. So example for suffering. Example, you want to buy all the stuff that you wanted, but unfortunately, you don't have much money. And this is why you get hurt. And this time, you are now suffering because you are not happy of getting all the stuff that you wanted. So Taoism. Taoism is founded by Lao Tzu. And to him, the self is an extension of cosmos, not of social relationship. It is a living way of Tao or with the universe. And they also rejected the hierarchy of Confucianism and how strict is Confucianism. Because for Taoism, they wanted to act freely with nature. They wanted to, or they prefer to have a simple life. So for Taoism, we should not complicate our life because life is simple. And the idea of Taoism is selflessness. It talks about selfless. Selflessness is not about forgetting ourselves. It teaches us to be balanced or to have balance in life, and also with society and nature. So it is not always work, or like if you're a student like us, like we need to just study. So we have to balance everything. We have to work, we have to study, and etc. And for this one, for Taoism, how to become selfless. So you just have to learn to be open and accept change. So example of it is right now our situation to study. It's really hard to study nowadays due to the pandemic, but we have to accept the fact that everything is constantly change, or everything continuously change. So we should learn to forget also our pride and complaints. And there's a saying according to Lao Tzu, act without expectation. So when you help others, then you expect something in return. So it means you are not governed by your kindness. You are governed by your profit. You are just doing empty selfishness. So because you are waiting in return. So for Lao Tzu, you just need to help without something in return. And that's how Taoism.
Hello, I am Hannah Jane Marshall. I am assigned for the topic of Western Self. Western Self is focuses individual and becoming purely egoistic. Egoistic is a selfish person or being independence. As you can see this picture in the third person, that the orange one have a crowd. He focuses on himself as being individual because he wants to separate, he wants to different for them, because he proved herself that he can do that and they can win that. Because maybe you can win or lose, or it depends or how will you focus on yourself. But if you are going to focus yourself, you will be win. But if you're not be focused on yourself, you will be lose. So in these pictures, you can see that he is win because he focuses on himself as being individual. He competent for them because he knows that he can do that without helping other people. He proved herself that he can do, and that is the examples of being individual and focuses on himself, and that is the Western self. And there is the Western ideas, which is the social construct, and the semantic. What is semantic? Semantic is the logic behind of the communication. Synthetic is the rules of language. It's the rules of language to communicate. And pragmatic is the how will the language use to communicate. And that is the three social construct of the Western ideas. And that is, thank you.
Hi everyone, I am Angeline C. Bandalan, and now we'll be talking about the Western and Eastern differences. Western and Eastern cultures have different perceptions of power and power distance. And Eastern cultures, they tend to have hierarchical structures of the nature of the hierarchy, which is they arrange in order of rank. While in Western cultures is more on egalitarians, or relating to on believing in the principle that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. In Western cultures, value independence and tend to promote individuals who are task-oriented and individualistic. Generally, modesty and collectivism are highly valued in Eastern cultures. Westerners focuses more on showing one's true colors by being genuine. Westerners also tend to conceal their feelings and intention. They exactly say what they really mean. In the East, people usually communicate subtly, like when expressing opinions. Easterners tend to use words to conceal their true intentions. Like, for example, instead of saying something is impossible, Easterners will soften their tone by using the word difficult, so that they can avoid upsetting others and making mistake in their speech. So that's all. Thank you for listening, everyone.
The part that Miss President, our group leader, has given to me is the similarities of Western and Eastern thoughts. Based on my research, East and West, like humans, search for meaning and purpose to life. Much is said about the difference between East and West, but much less is said about similarities. There is no division between Eastern or Western philosophy when it comes to the most basic question of what it means to be a human being. The fundamental purpose of philosophy is to find meaning in one's life and purpose to one's path. And there is no major difference between Eastern and Western philosophy according to the understanding. Although there are certainly differences between Eastern and Western philosophical system, they both aim the same goal of apprehending truth and understanding the best way to live one's life. Both East and West believe that man is born with innate knowledge that just need to be encouraged to pursue. Treating people the way you would like to be treated was taught by both Confucius and Jesus Christ. In general, the needs are the same, but the methods of finding answer and solution are somewhat different, with the West favoring scientific elements, while the East focus being more holistic and general. That is my part given to me by my group leader. Thank you so much for listening.